Hello everyone, and welcome to another game of World of Warships. Today I'm taking a look at the new Submarine Halloween game mode. So yes, submarines have made it into World of Warships, something they said they'd never do. And well, for now they are just in this one Halloween mission that's here for a limited time. And it can be a lot of fun, so I encourage you to at least give it a try. Now the teams are 6 players. And, well, everyone is a submarine. There are, I think, 5 different submarines. 2 are unlocked from the beginning, and the others you just get by playing some more of this game mode. And yeah, you'll unlock them with time. So, of the 2 starting submarines, there is the Barracuda and the Falcon. The Barracuda is certainly easier to play, in my opinion. The Barracuda just has front-facing torpedoes, while the Falcon has like the crowd control torpedo in the front, that's the blue one, and the more damaging ones in the back. And that makes it a little bit more tricky to launch them. Like here I've got my submarine around. Now I'm using my back torpedoes on those guys. Now the more efficient variant would be just to approach them, dive under them, and then use your rear torpedoes, which is probably the better way to go. Now in this mission, the primary task is simply to sink Rasputin. He is, well, in the top right corner. But if you want to complete this with 5 stars, you gotta do a bunch of secondary objectives. One is just eliminate foes. You will basically do that automatically if you are not ignoring the enemies and just sinking them. Like, early on there will just be 3 battleships on both sides, you have submarines on both sides, you just sink them, then you basically proceed towards the center. You have to spot a bunch of gun mounts, but they are spotted like from fairly far away. And then there is a timed objective. Now you see here the timer is at 0, that's just because it's a replay. You have, I think, about 12 minutes to do that. And hey, look at that, now I'm learning, right? Now that would be what you wanna do ideally. You wanna approach, then you wanna hit them with like this freezing torpedo, then you wanna dive under them, and then you wanna hit them with rear torpedoes. Now keep in mind you can ram ships, so don't ram a ship. It will just sink your submarine, and that's not something you want, obviously. So you have to dive a bit deeper to go under them. Now, I was talking about the secondary objectives. Look, spots the Black Castle. You have to be, I think, 5 kilometers away when you are on the surface and a bit closer if you are underwater. And you just have to reach this point and spot it. Now, Rasputin is before it, so instead of just sinking Rasputin, at least one ship should ignore him and spot this. There are also some gun emplacements behind that you want to spot for the secondary objectives. So keep an eye on this timer, and you should just do fine. You don't need someone to rush through here. You can just sink those ships and proceed forward. But in the last part here, you need one to just ignore Rasputin and go straight for the spotting. Now let's talk about submarines in general. You have different depths where you can be. You can be on the surface. On the surface you have a pretty big detection. Well, big is relative, I suppose. Now, of course, the stats vary between the different submarines. The Falcon is more sneaky, for example, than the Barracuda. But once you dive, you will consume oxygen. That's the green bar here. And when you're on the surface, that will fill up. And when you're underwater, it's depleted. If you're running out of oxygen and you are underwater, you will automatically go up. Maybe see some depth charges here thrown at me. And you know, if you are at the wrong spot and you are forced to surface, it might just hurt a lot, so keep that in mind. Keep an eye on your oxygen bar and basically replenish your oxygen when you have the time and you're safe, so that you can dive when needed. Now, you want to launch your torpedoes mostly at this is periscope. That is where your torpedoes are basically pretty accurate single launch. If you're on the surface, you see it, you still only launch 1 torpedo, but the torpedo has quite a bit of a spread in there and might not go exactly where you want it to. So ideally, you launch from the periscope depth. if you go further down, you can't launch torpedoes, but it can be great to just avoid incoming fire. Now, ships can still hit you with depth charges, but if you are lower than periscope depth, for example, can't be hit by torpedoes, you just, well, float under them. And yeah, basically our team is here proceeding forward. You can see all of those gun emplacements are basically just spotted along the way. You don't really have to go out of your way to spot them in my experience, because the spotting distance seems to be pretty huge. Now you could have ships go towards the flanks, I suppose, and enter the center from there. But the most enemies are just, I guess, here in the center. And going through the center has worked fine for me so far. Now, those ships are a bit awkward because I can't really dive under them and really utilize this ship. And you know, I also, this torpedo launch was, yeah. So basically steering your ship and launching your back torpedoes is something you have to get used to, and I'm not doing a very good job at it, to be honest. Because I usually press the wrong button if I want to turn in a direction if my ship is facing the wrong way. And really the most effective version would be just to dive under them and then use your rear wings. Now always keep in mind that you need enough oxygen, because if you are forced to surface and you are underneath an enemy, you'd probably ram them, and that's not what you want. So this mission isn't particularly hard. Might need you a couple of tries to get 5 stars depending on the teammates you get. And of course you can always do it in a division with friends, so that might help. And you can use like faster submarines to spot like the enemy tower, which is basically a good idea. You can also spot it in the Barracuda. I've also managed that, but you know, it's a little bit safer to do it in a fast submarine, I suppose. And now with that Leviathan gone, I should be able to surface here. And you see, when I'm on the surface in this ship, I have 4.3 kilometers detection range, which is pretty good. Like the Barracuda gets spotted from a lot farther away. But when you have like the time, be on the surface and replenish your oxygen, and then once you come into enemy ranges, you can go back down. Also, you see those torpedo tubes can hold multiple torpedoes. You only launch them one at a time, but you can basically have some spare ones loaded, which means that there isn't a long cooldown between launches, which is nice. And also something to keep in mind, I suppose, is if you hit them with those blue torpedoes that freeze them for a short time, they will obviously slow down. So keep that in mind. If the first freezing torpedo is going to hit and then you follow it up with some others, that you have to take into account that the ship will not keep going with the same speed. Of course, if you launch them pretty soon after each other, it's not that big of a deal. And that's mostly something to keep in mind with other submarines that have more front-facing torpedoes. So I'm at periscope, that again you can see here is Rasputin, and if you want 5 stars, you can't just go and sink Rasputin here, you need to spot this tower here. Right, you can see the tower is now 9.4 kilometers away from me. There are still some gun emplacements behind the tower as well, which you want to spot. Now you want a ship with ice, well, ideally fast and good concealment, because if you get focused, there are a lot of enemies here, right? But you don't have to sink them. You see, eliminate all foes. We are at 14 from 15. We just need to sink one more ship, and this is done. Save 3 submarines on your team. Well, hopefully you just have 3 people survive. And you see the foes have been eliminated. So all we need to do is spot like this castle and spot more gun emplacement. So I'm diving deeper here because I'm spotted just to survive. My oxygen is running pretty low, but that's okay. I want to surface here probably anyway to spot more gun emplacements. You also see we spotted the gun emplacement here on the north. And nobody of us was that close, so you can spot them from pretty far away, which is nice. And now I have to surface. You can see I ran out of oxygen. The ship is surfacing automatically. I've spotted the tower. I've spotted the last gun emplacement. So all secondary objectives completed. Now all we have to do is sink the Nikolai. Well, not all secondary objectives completed. We still need one submarine to actually... Well, we still need 3 submarines to survive. And we just have 3 submarines left, so nobody of us can go down right now. Now the Rasputin is behind me, which means I can kind of use my damaging rear torpedoes, which is nice. Now you can ignore all of the additional ships here if you want to. I mean, spinning the herd a little bit can help.
Torpedoes astern.
But yeah, you only need to sink those 15 ships for your secondary objective, and now if we focus down Rasputin, we just win. So got some torpedoes on the way, and you can see there is plenty of enemy ships that have an interest in me. So I go down again. I don't have that. Well, I have about half oxygen, but at this point I just want to survive because Rasputin seems to be going down here anyway. And we can just look more at this pretty submarine. So Rasputin is permanently banished. Now there is a little bit of a delay from completing the objective and the win. So I just have to survive a few more seconds, and this is a 5-star win. So here we are with the results. Not that interesting, I suppose. But you know, this is the new submarine game mode. It's here for a limited amount of time. I encourage you to check it out. Check out a few different submarines. And well, personally I find it fun. It looks gorgeous. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys next time.